Morning, everybody. Welcome back to another fun-filled Road to the Apocalypse, where we talk about the roadmap and find out where we're going and where we've been. So this is for deadlinger.com website. You come on here to the roadmap, and we're talking about servers and multiplayer game types and things like that. So we've covered a few topics. Let's see, we talked about exploration mode. Okay, let's talk about this game type right here, Overlord. It says this is a multiplayer game type we will be adding very late in development. If we reach certain financial goals, there's currently no additional information available at this time. Oh, I guess that sums it up. um, so I think this is probably a leftover from the Kickstarter, maybe, when they had that as a stretch goal to program it in. So I could see just by the name, just my mind comes out and thinks, my imagination says that possibly game type Overlord must be some sort of domination thing. I mean, usually you would think, free for all, PvP, team deathmatch, stuff like that, but it almost makes me think like it sounds like an overlord, a dictator of something. Can you imagine if you could set it up to where you impose taxes? I know it's not like people are paying money for stuff, but um, if you set up an area of control and you have boundaries, and when you come in, your characters have to give up maybe certain pieces of equipment, a certain amount of stuff. Like maybe you could set it up for like food. So if you want to come within the boundaries, or if you come in the boundaries, it like goes through your equipment and takes out food. And if you don't have the food, you can't come in. I mean, just a crazy, wild thought. Have absolutely no idea what the Overlord game type is because it just says nothing. So that's when mind kicks in and thinks, well, that would be interesting, but no idea. So I cannot really comment on that. Oh, I mean, I can comment, but completely unbased anything, I tend to do. There's no factual stuff at all. Just a name, and then crazy thoughts that you can come up with, area control type of stuff. Trying to think what other games have. I mean, I've seen games where it says you can set up a base and you control a zone of control that you and your team inhabit, and then but I'm just trying to think what would give you benefits, because there's really like no experience points. It's not like a capture the flag. There's the Dead Linger is not like your typical game, so you don't have to worry about leveling up, de-leveling, getting experience. Maybe Overlord type, if you control parts of the map, maybe you earn certain perks that help you in your survival. And if you're part of the team that owns that area of control, then you get the benefit of that global perk. And if you're not part of the team and you come in, maybe there's some sort of penalty, like you do less damage or something. So if you wanted to take over that area of control, you'd have to bring a whole bunch of people to try and make that zone of control shrink. And maybe you have to set up certain outposts. And then if you're, let's say, the blue team, your outposts influence this zone of control. They have to be within each other in order to have a complete blanket of control. And then people are trying to come in and take over your areas of control, because the more areas of control that you have, the more perks and bonuses you get. Yeah, thoughts. Overlord game type. Who knows? Let's see here. Game type editor. I wouldn't really call the editor a game type, but it's a game type editor. Now let's see. We would eventually like to add creative mode of sorts, where survivors can collaborate and modify the scenarios at whim. This is a game type we will be adding very late in development if we reach certain financial goals. So again, I think that's like a Kickstarter leftover. What's the picture? Huh. I always thought these are kind of neat. I like to open up and see kind of what their thought processes are for, like behind the scenes things, the concept art and drawings and things like that. See, look, they even have it set up. I don't know if you can see this very well, but the red areas are where items spawn, and then these green outlined areas, it says open them like doors to get items. So that's a thought they've had for a long time, is at some point the ability to open up, the oven, fridge doors. So it's coming. It's coming. It's planned. This is like their 10% completion, because the items do spawn. Now we just got to be able to open the doors. All right, so that's the picture for a game type editor. I think that would be cool, and I think that's kind of what my son had in mind the other day when we were talking about different game types where you kind of have like a god mode. I think editor mode is maybe kind of what they have in mind for that, especially because it says if it's cooperative, you get to collaborate, and sometimes, that's just how it kind of feels like when you have 7 days to die, for example, and that's a huge creative type of game where you're dealing with the voxels, and it's not squares necessarily. They have some rounded edges and stuff like that, but you can turn off the zombies, and then that's what you can focus on, is just building. I know my son and I, we have 7 days to die. We don't play it too much. We kind of got bored of it, honestly. He used to love it because it was an open world. You could destroy anything in the world. You saw it, you could dig on it. I mean, the potential there for crafting and creating it's huge. I mean, you got to make like furnaces and smelt metal down. I mean, it's a huge crafting game. But we got bored. But what was fun and what didn't make it boring was the fact that we got to have this creative mode, and we just went in and just started making crazy stuff. So we didn't even play it a lot of times as a zombie survival game because the zombies were just, I don't like their style of zombies. I didn't like them. The textures and different types were okay, but I didn't like the day-night cycle. The concepts were fun at the time, but we ended up just playing it more as a creative game where we would just be digging tunnels and making underground bases, and my son's really into like making furnaces and equipment and things like that, and he's, we just started playing it for the creative aspects, not for the survival aspects, because I don't know, it just doesn't have the same feel as the Dead Linger. So what would be cool with the Dead Linger is when you get that creative mode going and they have like barricading and stuff like that fixed, I think this would be a super, super robust game, because there's times where you don't necessarily want to worry about zombie hordes, dogs, and things like that. You just want to build. In creative mode, you might be able to turn off aspects of like hunger and needing water and stuff, and you and your friends just go in and build. You send people out for chopping trees. And the thing is, and I've heard this argument before, that when you take away those kind of aspects of survival, like the zombies and the dogs and things like that, it's no longer the Dead Linger. The whole idea behind the Dead Linger is survival, and if you take those elements away and just make it a completely Care Bear type of experience, it's not the Dead Linger. It still is, because from the beginning, like when we started talking about the roadmap and making comments and different things that I've read, the one concept that has remained constant is that they want to give the players options. And sometimes, you know what? It is fun just to hop in, slap some stuff together with your friends, take some screenshots, make a little video of something you made, post it on YouTube without the threat of PvP or bandits or people tearing it down as soon as it's made. That is an option that I think is very valid in any type of game world. Like I said, my son and I, when we do 7 days to die, that's generally what we do. We just turn off all the zombies. You still got to eat and stuff, but we just turn off all the zombies, and boom, we just start making stuff. He does that with Minecraft a lot. He's really gotten into the survival mode lately of Minecraft, but for the longest time when he was just learning the game, he just played normal mode because he liked to build stuff. Now, the Dead Linger doesn't necessarily bill itself currently as a crafting game. It's a survival game. The crafting is going to come later, and they call that barricading. But, some of the basic works are there for making some plywood sheets and stuff. And as they kind of continue to develop that building process, they've even put out on a Reddit, hey, do you want us to come up with a system similar to Rust? So there's still some debate on their side exactly how they want to approach the barricading and the house building and stuff like that. So there's more to come. I think then that would validate the need for just a creative mode. I'm just going to build stuff. So I'm excited. I think the game type editor mode would be just as fun, without the threat of having your stuff torn down, destroyed, or you're killed and people coming and messing it up. It's just, hey, let's just go and make stuff. I'm chopping lumber, I'm farming. If nothing else, it's a great way to experiment too. Place traps, experiment with crafting things without using up your valuable resources that you might have on your actual survival game. So I think that's good too. In fact, that's kind of what we started using creative mode with in 7 Days to Die, was just to practice crafting and making stuff, so we kind of understood how the game worked. It just turned out that turned out to be kind of a game on its own, and usually if we play 7 Days to Die, we just play the creative part. So anyway, those are some of my thoughts on the editor mode and why that's actually would be very fun. Let's talk about this last item here. Survivor interaction, trading and inspecting. Alright, so it says here, along with showing the weapon displayed in another survivor's hand, the Dead Linger currently allows survivors to drop items for one another. We have future plans for adding additional methods of trading, such as a trade window for safe trading, and an action for inspecting the equipped gear of another survivor. Alright, I have mixed feelings on that. I think that would need to be a server toggleable item, because that to me kind of harkens back to a traditional kind of MMO type of experience where you're inspecting player gear, safe trade windows and things like that. I would think probably for me the better answer would be is not to have those things, because when you're playing with folks, if they're folks that you know and they're your buddies, then hopefully your buddy is not going to try and rip you off. Because when we're talking about the apocalypse, people are terrible sometimes. There's some good people out there, but sometimes, you just can't trust people. And maybe these folks are not necessarily out to PvP kill you, but they might not be very honest and shady in their trading and their dealings. And then, you make one trade with them and then you realize, oh, I just got ripped off. You're mad, and then you have a choice. Do I attack them and take everything, or attack them, kill them, and just take back my stuff? That leads to tension and story arcs. Now, we don't want this to be like Eve, and I'm not trying to bash that, but I always hear these stories about how Eve Online just really kind of encourages that type of behavior of stealing and robbing, and people are carrying around ISK worth hundreds of dollars in real life, and then they get ganked by pirates and stuff like that, or shady deals, But I think that's an important part of a survival game that is kind of focusing on these aspects of paranoia. So you might be trading with folks, but are they going to be honest traders? Plus, it just kind of adds to that realism of, hey, okay, I'm going to set my bananas down. Does he set down his item, or does he just steal the bananas and goes? And then if he steals those bananas and runs, is it worth it to me to chase him down? But see, you got to understand that if that's how your server that you're playing on is set up, then the potential for, thieving and things like that are there. And then you have to be extra careful when you're making some kind of trade. You've got to be really sure, am I going to place this on the ground and have him pick it up? Now, alternatively then, just to make a more friendly gaming experience would be to go ahead and turn those things on. So now if I want to trade, I got to pull up the trade window, and then that person can't take anything until we complete the trade interaction. Again, the options are good, I think. And when the people have control of the servers, I'm hoping that there's a way to look at a comprehensive listing of what the people have included on their server, what options. That way, if you get somebody who's got, that one little secure trading box unchecked, that when you pop in, okay, there's no secure trading. That means I have to be very careful how I decide to trade items. So I think that would be a good item to be able to turn on or off. And same with equipment inspecting. I'm not a big fan for that either. If I really want to see what somebody has, have them trade it to me so I can look at it. But then even there you want to be careful. But I just don't think you should have that omnipotent ability to click on a character avatar, right click, or however you're going to interact with them, and say, oh, let me look at all their gear. That to me screams like World of Warcraft, and now you want to compare who's got the better raid gear, kind of a thing. And I don't think that's needed for the Dead Linger, honestly. But again, I don't mind having it there as an option, especially if you can take gear from server to server, and let's say, because I don't know if, I don't know. I thought somewhere I read, oh, maybe I'm wrong. For some reason I thought I read somewhere you could take a character and have that character move from server to server. I don't know where I got that from, but so scratch that thought. But I'm just trying to think, like, what would be the point of taking a look at someone's gear? Unless they really come up with lots of gear and then eventually some rare type of gear, and you just want to look and you see somebody and you're like, oh, he's got a kilt. Wow, where did he get the kilt from? What kind of stats are on the kilt? I really just don't see the need for an inspection, especially because depending on your game type mode, you're going to be too busy running from the person or trying to kill the person, and then once the person's dead, you just take it, and then you know exactly what's on it. So really hard to say if you need an inspect type of item. But again, the option to have it would be great, and that's probably an option I would turn off. I don't know. If it was there, I probably wouldn't care, but I just don't think it's needed. But again, having that as an option I think would be fine. Because if you don't like having the inspect other characters' gear, because usually for me, the inspection comes by looking at their 3D model and kind of seeing what they're carrying. And if you see them carrying something that you haven't found yet, then you can ask, hey, where'd you get that? I just don't want to see the Dead Linger start switching towards some sort of MMO type of experience, because I don't expect the servers to hold hundreds and hundreds of people, and because you're in a PvP type based game, I guarantee most of the time if you see somebody carrying something, people are going to try and kill you to take it, and then they don't need to have an inspect option. The inspect option is they just take it off your corpse. So your mileage may vary with that. I'm not saying it's going to be wrong. I'm just saying I don't need it for my game experience. So anyway, that's a few things we've talked about. Go ahead and share your comments. I enjoy reading what everybody shares with the different things that we talk about. Go ahead, let me know so far if there's a game type that you're curious about that I haven't explained very well for you. Share some comments about maybe what you think might be in some of these game types that haven't been any progress to them yet. And we'll come back and talk some more later. All right, have a good day, everybody.